살라는 생각하면서 잠들었단 말이야. 그래서 꿈을 좀 안 써? 아니? 엄마랑 싸.
와 진짜?
뭐야? 진영 보고 싶어가지고 갑자기 젖었어. 형.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Diaries channel. What if the silence you're noticing isn't an accident, but a warning? Suddenly, talking about Jikook feels risky. Posts disappear. Fans get attacked. Support turns into something we're told to hide. So the question isn't just, is Jikook over? It's why are we being made to feel like we're not allowed to talk about them anymore? Amidst the silence of a fandom usually filled with laughter, theories, and small, meaningful moments, a big question suddenly hung in the air. Is Jikook's relationship truly over? Not because of an official statement, not because of a scandal, but because of something far more suffocating. A silence that felt heavy. A silence that made many wonder if we were now even forbidden to talk about them. Was our continued support misplaced? Was loving Jikook now something to hide? For many fans, Jikook wasn't just a ship. They were a story that slowly grew before our eyes. From small, accidental glances, to laughs too honest to be acting, to the quiet moments that felt the most real. Their relationship, whatever label one wanted to give it, had become a safe space for many. A symbol of comfort, warmth, and a bond that needed no harsh words to explain. So it's natural, then, that when everything seemed to change, the fandom's heart fluttered. Lately, we've noticed something different. Interactions that once felt natural are now rare. Moments of togetherness that once flowed effortlessly now feel limited by an invisible distance. Not just on screen, but also in the atmosphere. Fans began to ask questions quietly, then increasingly loudly. Why don't we see them the way they used to? Why is every mention of Jikook immediately attacked, labeled delusional, or even erased? Since when is loving two people who clearly care for each other considered excessive? What hurts most isn't the possibility of something changing. Change is a part of life. What hurts is feeling as if we're being forced to forget. As if there's an unspoken rule that says, don't talk about them anymore. Don't support them like before. Don't hope. Yet, fandom support has never been born of hatred or ill will. It's born of observation, of empathy, of connection. Many feel afraid now. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of being attacked. Fear of being labeled excessive simply because they still believe what they saw was real. Yet, love doesn't always have to be proclaimed with a megaphone. Sometimes it lives in small habits, in a consistent presence, in a sense of security that doesn't need to be displayed. And just because we no longer see things clearly doesn't mean they're gone. There's also a sense of guilt that creeps in. As if by supporting Jikook, we're crossing a line. After all, haven't BTS always talked about the freedom to express our feelings? About loving honestly, without fear of judgment? Why are fandoms now silencing each other? Why are fans hurting each other just because of differing perspectives? The question, is Jikook's relationship over, may not have a definitive answer, and perhaps we shouldn't demand one. More importantly, there's another, less frequently discussed question. Why do we no longer feel safe loving them as we once did? Why has support become something to be defended with arguments, rather than celebrated with warmth? Jikook has given us so much without ever asking for anything in return. They've brought laughter on tough days, comforted us through small, sincere interactions, and given us hope that human connections can be profound without explanation. If they now choose a quieter path, isn't that their right? But that silence shouldn't kill the love that has blossomed in the hearts of so many. Supporting Jikook doesn't mean forcing a narrative. It doesn't mean rejecting reality. It means honoring what was and what remains, even if it changes. It means remembering that genuine feelings are never wrong, and that fandom should be a safe space, not a space of judgment. Maybe now isn't the time to scream loudly. Maybe it's a time to love more quietly. But it doesn't mean stopping. It doesn't mean giving up. And it doesn't mean forgetting. Because meaningful relationships, whatever they're called, aren't erased just because someone feels uncomfortable talking about them. So if you ask whether we should stop supporting Jikook, the answer isn't as simple as yes or no. Support can change form. It can become more mature, quieter, more understanding. But as long as the feeling remains, as long as the memory's still warm, no one has the right to say we should stay silent forever. Maybe Jikook isn't disappearing. Maybe they're simply growing away from the spotlight, away from demands. And maybe, as fans, our job isn't to question the ending, but to learn to respect the journey without erasing the past love that already lives in our hearts.
가기 전에 우리 얼굴은 막 보기 힘든가?
나 내일 파리로 가는데?
아, 볼 수가 없구나, 우리는. 아, 형 왔으면 더 재밌겠다.
And perhaps this is the hardest part of all. Accepting that not all the stories we love will count, it continues to unfold before our eyes. Some stories change shape. Some become quieter. But silence doesn't always mean the end. In many cases, silence actually means protection. Protection from wild opinions, from public pressure, from the constant demands to prove something that shouldn't need to be proven. Behind the scenes, Jimin and Jungkook are still human. Two people who have grown together through training, fame, exhaustion, and a world that constantly watches their every move. A relationship like that, whatever you call it, can't simply disappear just because we no longer see it in public. Bonds formed over years aren't destroyed by rumors or by social media silence. Sometimes silence is the most mature choice. Fans often forget that what we see is only a small part of their lives. A small shared snippet, a fleeting moment captured on camera. When that snippet diminishes, we panic. We fill the void with fear. But the void isn't necessarily empty. Maybe they're just no longer in the spotlight. Isn't that their right? There's beauty in loving without demands, in supporting without forcing answers, in believing what we once felt without having to prove it to anyone. Jikook never asked us to argue, attack each other, or feel guilty about our own feelings. All of that stems from external pressure, from imposed narratives, from fear of judgment. If you choose to remain supportive today in a quieter way, it doesn't make you any less loyal. If you choose to protect your own feelings from exhausting arguments, it doesn't mean you're giving up. And if you still feel warmth when you remember their little moments, those aren't imaginary. They're memories. They're real emotional experiences. Maybe one day the atmosphere will change again. Maybe not. But true love doesn't depend on the certainty of the future. It thrives on honesty in the past and acceptance of the present. And as long as we can respect each other, both fellow fans and Jimin and Jungkook as individuals, that support still means something. So, if you feel alone for still caring, remember this: you're not alone. Many choose to remain silent, not because they don't care, but because they care too much to make it a topic of debate. And in that silence, love remains. It's quiet, undemanding, but it lives on. So before you leave, ask yourself, is Jikook truly gone? Or is the noise around them just getting louder? If you still believe in moments that feel real, a bond that never needs explanation, then you're not alone. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more honest discussions about Jikook. Until next time, stay kind, stay respectful, and continue supporting with all your heart.